Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Hallo Vepi, oho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Hallo Vepi, oho. Suukon kirsikka silmät niin mustat kuin yö.
Well, welcome again to another adventure of Gloucester Bookies. I'm here with the lovely and adorable panelists that have kindly joined me, named Susanna, Natti, and...
With an S, S-U-S-S, what is it?
S-U-S-A.
Oh, I'm sorry, S-U-S-A-N-N-A-H?
No H.
No H, I'm sorry, folks, no H. We'll do that again next week.
Okay, good.
And this is the writer who can't spell, named...
Actually, I can. It's just I've never heard it spelled like that.
That's it. You know, once you get it, you know it.
Trying to fool me earlier.
Once you get it, you know it. And I'm glad to say you've got some stuff that you can read with us today.
Yes. Thank you, Wayne.
It is.
You might want to say what my name is.
Sharon Love Cook.
Thank you.
S-H-A-R-O-N.
Well done.
Good, Wayne. He was the valedictorian of his class. I guess
we
I
all
don't have to
gotta
mention
go.
that.
No.
Out of 700 students, he was
yeah.
number one.
Gosh.
Anyway, yeah, those.
He told me to make sure I mention it early. He said, make sure you mention it, get that in early. So, okay. So I did. No, I'm fooling. He never said that. That's gratuitous.
This is good. In any case, and I am Wayne Soini, and I won't spell that. How's that? It'll be on the bottom of your screen anyway, right?
Oh, good.
And we're starting up because Susie kindly has a willingness to share with us that she and her mother were co-authors of not one, but their relationship survived to two books. And in this way, I know from myself, being a co-author is different and special and difficult. And I'd like her to tell about her adventures as a co-author within this program. Now.
Can we see the books?
Okay, well, sure. I will make a small correction because we weren't co-authors, but we were collaborators because my mother was the author and I was the illustrator.
Put it that way.
Nevertheless, there is the need for collaboration there, and my mother and I actually made some earlier attempts that were unsuccessful because I was too much daughter then and not enough illustrator. It took a little time to get enough confidence to feel like I could measure up, and I think my mother was a wonderful partner. She was very patient. Her critiques were excellent. I just couldn't take her excellent critiques the first time around.
Remembering,
they were probably professional.
They were professional, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
May I say, not everybody realizes her mother, an editor at Houghton Mifflin Publishers. So her, what you just said about professional editing.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. So we did manage to get two books published together, and the first one was a book based on my children. It's called Catch the Baby, and it was inspired by my older daughter when she was 10 months old. She was crawling out the door, and my mother said, oh, somebody catch the baby. And then the light went on, and she said she was going to do a book, and I was doing illustrations for Viking at the time, and we sent the manuscript to the editor at Viking, and she said, yeah, this is good, let's go with it. So by the time it had been written, my older daughter had grown up to be 5, but the younger daughter was at exactly the right age. So the children on the front are my older daughter, my younger daughter, our neighbor across the street at the time, and Clowny was the little creature being held by my daughter, was an actual clown. As a matter of fact, it was good I'd done the illustrations because shortly after that we lost Clowny, and I used the illustration as a template for making another one. So life is circular.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun book to do. We had a great time together, and it was very autobiographical, which made it even more fun. I have illustrations of myself in there, and my cousin Eric's dog, Woofer. This is a illustration from the end of the book where the baby has been retrieved after a long chase.
I think there's a fallen bear in that page.
Oh, yeah, there are all sorts of little details. So that was the first book we did together, and then she had really been wanting me.
No animals were hurt in the
No,
production.
No animals were harmed in the making of this book.
Thank you.
I love those illustrations.
Oh, thank you.
They're very alive, very
Thank
much
you.
alive.
Well,
is so-
I'm glad to have portraits of
great.
both of my children in a book, and they were pretty pleased too. So the second book was an entirely different kind of challenge because my mother wanted me to re-illustrate The Best Christmas, her iconic and well-loved book about a Finnish-American family who are missing a member at Christmas time and hoping dearly he'll come home. And there is a happy ending, but it really revolves around one of the younger boys making Christmas happen for his family. It's a very beautiful book. I can't get through it without crying, actually.
Oh, do you have it here?
I do. And so I brought both versions.
She needs a paper towel for this
I need a paper towel.
to wipe.
Oh, to wipe my tears. Oh, good.
Yes.
I
all
was
right.
thinking it might
Here's
be something
a clean
worse.
one, Susanna.
Thank you. So the first edition of The Best Christmas was illustrated by Barbara Cooney. And if you happen to tune into a previous taping of this program, you would know that she's one of my idols, really an icon for me.
Yeah.
And
And
this-
so familiar. Just
Oh.
so well, boomers, I guess.
Yes,
you know,
I mean, Caldecott
would remember.
winning,
Yeah.
way up there in the pantheon of illustrators. So this was published in 1949, and Barbara Cooney made these dear, sweet little illustrations. I will get these in an image that could be seen.
Yeah.
Technical question, because people out there,
Yes.
I think, have books at home like that, including that book.
Mm-hmm.
And they're tiny little illustrations that could fit on like a calling card.
Right.
The artists don't actually draw in that little miniature way, do they? Don't they? And then the publisher shrinks away?
It depends on the illustrator.
It does.
Barbara Cooney, I think these are the actual size.
Ah.
They're very small. It's a method using scratchboard, which is a technique where you have a surface that you can put ink on, black ink, and then scratch away the design. So you have these beautiful little pine needles and little Erky standing proudly to the side with his hatchet because they've just cut down their Christmas tree.
And it's not an easy method either.
It can be very satisfying.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have used scratchboard myself. I didn't ever use it professionally, but
But I
it's,
mean, for the beginners starting out.
oh
you
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah. You have
take
to
some.
you have to do a little planning with it because you've got to figure out where the black is going to be and where the white is going to be, and it's not always a case of just scratching things away. It's planning ahead.
We're going to shortly find out that both of these ladies, and Sharon is included, are artists, and we'll get into that. But you have 2 minutes to.
All right. So let me get to the next thing.
We won't interrupt. So
So my mother finally persuaded me to do the book, and the short story is that I decided that I could do it the year after both my father died and Barbara Cooney died. I felt like I couldn't redo the book as long as Barbara Cooney was alive because for me, even though I've illustrated it, this is the iconic version in my heart. But then I felt like it was a tribute to my father because it was based on him. So this is actually the same scene, cutting down the Christmas tree, but it's a completely different take. I mean, this is my style. It's bigger, obviously. And I sort of went for a lot of action because that's what I enjoyed doing. And then
and that's what kids like too.
that's what kids like too. So, I mean, the fun part of doing a book is doing all the sketches.
That's a fabulous cover. I like that cover.
Well, thank you for mentioning that.
Can you turn that around, or will
I
people
will.
see it? Yeah.
The cover actually is the most daunting part of doing a book for me. I mean, I love doing the sketches for it. That's the fun part. And then you've got to do the final illustrations based on comments from the art director. But the cover, so much is riding on that. And you have to
Yes.
think, well, what's the scene I want to evoke? Is it going to be something actual that happened in the book, or is it something atmospheric that tells you something general about the book? So it's always a decision.
We'll expand the discussion to book covers for the last half of the
Oh,
show.
great.
So let me rest with that and
Great.
go to Sharon,
Excellent.
who has a couple things I'm asking you to share. One is
Well.
she has a wonderful way with stories, and then she has she has an actual written story that she's going to read aloud to us. But I like
Only
the oral.
500 words.
No, it's a short
That sounds
one.
like a lot,
It's
but
a
it
one
goes
page.
fast.
It's a one page. It's shorter
Oh,
than
sorry,
that.
Wayne.
And I'd like you to tell us the story of your first shopping alone in Gloucester. What a story. This is Sharon's first
I didn't
shopping
think it was.
alone.
That's funny. I told Wayne I didn't think much of it. I don't know what brought us around to that. Oh, I know it was your book, Ed and Joe. Your book, Ed and Joe, and I said from the 1920s, Gloucester downtown and everything. And we were sort of talking about that. How much is the same and how much has changed, downtown. And I said, what I remember going, and obviously I'll never forget it, but I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I took my babysitting money, and my mother let me go shopping alone. And I was going to buy something for school. And as I said, my babysitting money probably amounted to like $3 or something. It was a bunch of quarters too. And I took it with me, and I went into the store. I won't mention it, but it was an upscale, one of the more upscale stores. And I just found myself in there, and I knew right away I was out of my depths, because another thing was being alone, never been shopping alone, and interacting with adults. We had no experience when we were kids. Kids today go everywhere with their parents, but we were like little savages. My mother kept us at home, and we didn't want to be out there, you know. You didn't want to go shopping. I mean, I would go with her, but the idea of going alone, and I didn't really know what I wanted. I think I wanted a blouse, and the sales lady was asking me, what do you want? And she said something like, what material? And all I could think of was wool. I said, wool. And this is...
But in the back of your head, something that your mother
Yes.
had told you.
And then I remembered, the lady went off she said, let me get some selections. And suddenly I remembered my mother talking about this particular store, and she said, don't go in there, saying this to someone. They breathe down your neck. And I remember I was in that store, and she would come back, and suddenly I realized I kind of backed up against the wall.
The vampire is coming.
And I didn't know, why do they breathe down your neck? Why? Why did they do that? But things that adults did were just,
What happened next?
just out of, just sort of out of the ordinary anyway. And, you're just baffling. So I remember thinking of that, they kind of breathed on my neck, and I thought, I've got to go. And I went racing for the door while the lady was looking for some things for me. And except I missed the door, I went into this glass panel that was next to the door.
Oh, no.
And I went right through it, and I was out on the sidewalk, and I didn't look down. I started running because they were running after me. Everybody in the store, I thought, I'm really in trouble now. I thought maybe they want some money from me. Maybe, I'd broken this window. And I was running down the street, and all the salespeople, and these people behind me, and finally they caught up to me and they grabbed me. And then that's when I looked down, I realized the blood was pouring into my sneakers and all this blood. So they put me in a car, and somebody made a tourniquet. And I remember they took me to Dr. Pett's office on Middle Street, and he wasn't there. So they took me to Addison Gilbert Hospital, and my doctor, Dr. Brown from Rockport, he was the family doctor, he happened to be there that day. And thank goodness, because I had 47 stitches and left with a big scar.
Wow.
And, even to this day, like, I'm sort of proud of those stitches. Like when I was a kid, actually, I think it was 46, but I said 47. I told people 47.
Does it keep growing?
And it was in the paper, a little blurb in the paper. And
I'd like to know how
oh
they
my
wrote the
goodness.
story.
There is so much to unpack in that story. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what a time. Everything
and they
speaks to
called
that
your mother.
time.
Well, here's the thing. She went home. You know what I think it was? The meter. I always wrote about my mother, the frugal,
frugal Finn.
I think the meter expired, and she wasn't going to put another nickel in. The meter's expired, so she went home, and she and my father were at home, so they showed up at the hospital, and I had this big cast, and so
my Lord.
I realized I was not ready to go shopping alone. I knew that this was a skill, just
Right.
the things you take for granted. When you're a kid, you
Right.
you can't do those things.
I've got to say, as we are, three of us, writers that deal with books, that makes a story in a book, a chapter in a book, and you have another one that I'd like you to read, because this one you have written, I guess it's been published, right? This one?
Yep, well, a version of it.
All right.
I entered this in the Irma Bombeck Humor Writers Contest. They have it every 2 years in Dayton, Ohio, and I'm going this year. They've canceled it the past 2 years because of COVID.
How many people attend the Irma Bombeck?
Oh my
Question.
Lord! There are so many. Dave Barry shows up. I mean, they've got
my.
big names.
Yeah.
Big names show up, and it's a fun crowd. Needless to say, they're
There's a
humor
group of
writers.
50 people, 100 people, 200 people?
Oh, like 700. I mean, it's huge.
Hundreds.
And the best thing for me is the Marriott Dayton. If you ever get a chance, go there.
Okay.
They call it the Marriott on the Riviera Dayton. There's a river there. It's so nice. That's part
Is
of
that
it. Is
the
just
river that caught fire?
Oh, I don't think so.
Go ahead with your story.
Well, shall I? This is a quick one. It's only the rules were 500 words, so I narrowed it all down. And this is a little more current, and I call it The Last Ass Standing. That's ASS. Last Ass Standing.
And you'll later hear what that initial stands for in the course of the story.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. I know this is a family-friendly show.
Go right ahead.
And it is not what you think it is.
Right.
Okay. I went back to college in my 40s, having been a 60s art school dropout. This time around, I was bitten by a desire to help humanity. And though I yearned to ease mankind's suffering, I was squeamish about blood and bodily fluids. Therefore, I majored in occupational therapy, where I deal with the outsides of patients rather than the insides. During my second year of classes, we were assigned to hospitals for an internship. There I was instructed to help patients with their ADLs, activities of daily living. Every morning I approached a patient's bed asking, "Would you like to brush your teeth?" I'd rummage around in my ADL cart for toothbrush and toothpaste, all disposable, by the way. I can do this, I thought, until one morning an elderly patient reached into her mouth and handed me her teeth. My instructors had never mentioned this scenario. Not wanting to appear unprofessional, I calmly slipped the teeth into the pocket of my lab coat, saying, "I'll take care of it." I planned to ask one of the CNAs, certified nursing assistants, about the proper procedure. However, after a long day on the unit, I forgot. The following morning, I was reminded of this when I donned my lab coat and felt a weight in my right pocket. Worse, I couldn't remember which patient owned the teeth. With mounting desperation, I pushed my cart into room after room, assessing patients' mouths. If someone was sleeping, I surreptitiously peeked inside. I just go like that. They were sleeping. This paid off when I discovered the toothless patient. After handing her the teeth, she slid them in, nodding her approval. She didn't realize it took that long. She didn't know anything was different. All was fine. At semester's end, I visited the college's newly established adult student services. At the time, being an adult student was kind of rare. There weren't many adult students, non-trads, they called us. Newly established Adult Student Services, or ASS.
Yeah.
For a while there, that was on the room, the ASS. Yeah. To talk about changing majors. Although I still had the desire to help people, I couldn't maintain an air of objectivity, tearing up at sad stories, and hospitals have many sad stories. After listening, the Ask Dean said, "Didn't I read an essay you wrote for the college newspaper? I'd written about the downside of being a non-traditional adult student. While my traditional classmates might have coffee with me, they never invite me along on spring break." Believe me, I remembered that. Not that I would go, but you know, it would be nice to be asked. The dean leaned forward. "I think you should pursue a writing career." Her remark made sense. I felt more at home at the campus newspaper office than the OT clinic. Thus, I changed my major to English. Not only did I finish with a bachelor's degree, I completed art school. Today, I write and illustrate my stories. I still like to help people, but now I do it outside a hospital setting. People say my cartoons and humor columns makes them laugh. And according to the medical experts, laughter is the best medicine. Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you.
I'm glad.
I know it seemed longer than 500 words, but I swear it's 500.
My favorite story of Irma Bombeck, she told it on what did she appear on? The Today Show or something.
Oh, yeah.
She was driving in traffic one time, and she's looking in the rearview mirror, and she's seeing a couple cop cars come up in back of her, and one of her kids had put on, had a piece of paper on the back rear window. It says, "Help, I'm being kidnapped."
Oh!
Anyway, she told that story very nicely, as she always did, all those stories.
One thing she said, I'll just tell this quickly. One thing she said that I think was really funny, she was talking about vacations. And she said, when you go on a vacation, you go to get away from it all. And she said, and some people take their families. She said, to me, that's like going away and taking it all with you. And she's right, except today, people just automatically take their families. And I think it's not really a vacation, but... Well,
Sharon, many of your stories are situated in Granite Cove, the Granite Cove Mysteries, and I'd ask you this one. You're an expert. How many mystery writers does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh, this is one of his.
Oh,
this
boy.
is one of Wayne's famous jokes, well-known jokes. Can you guess who?
I have not the foggiest.
I could guess if we had more time, but we don't have the time, so you tell us.
It takes two mystery writers to change a light bulb. One to start the process, and the other to give it an unexpected twist at the end.
Oh! Hey! Did you make that up?
No.
That's good. I like that. Yeah,
Anyway, okay now. We're starting at my 10 minutes. I had a couple of books I wanted to recommend, and I looked up, and they're not available in the Sawyer Library or the whole Nobel system there. Noble system. So I said, gee, I must be reading books that nobody else reads. But so I only recommend, on this program, I only recommend books you can get that are accessible in the library for free. So I don't have any books to recommend today. And I'm going to instead develop a new segment called Authors Gone Bad.
Authors gone. Are they living authors? I guess they would have to be living authors.
Living author. This is online news. This is authentic. You can look it up on your internet, your computer. Authors Gone Bad. And we need some music. I'll read you the item. Doris Dunnigan, D.D. Moore, he's known as D.D., 49, of Tampa, Florida, met Abraham Lee Shakespeare, authentic name, Abraham Lee Shakespeare, when she said that she wanted to write a book about him. Shakespeare had won the Florida State Lottery for $30 million.
Imagine.
Oh, wow.
He said, fine.
Wow.
So she soon convinced him, as she was writing his biography, to let her help him manage financially what remained of his lottery winnings. At that time, he only had about $1 million left.
What did he do with the rest of it, Wayne?
Answering
Oh,
your
sorry.
good question, Shakespeare spent much of his winnings paying off mortgages of family and friends,
Oh,
giving
yes.
money to people who asked him for help.
Oh, my.
And that was a nice guy.
Nice.
Yes.
So Moore Didi withdrew the $1 million from Shakespeare's bank accounts, spending the money on a Hummer, a Corvette, a truck. I don't know what she wanted the truck for. A truck and a vacation.
This woman did, the interviewer?
Right, the writer.
She took his...
Writer gone bad.
Oh, gee,
yes.
yeah.
Shakespeare was found buried under a concrete slab in the backyard of a home Moore had purchased.
Oh, my.
A jury convicted Moore for first-degree murder. But that's not the news.
Yeah.
The news is that in a telephone interview from prison, Moore said that keeping lottery winners' names secret was a good idea. A new Florida law, a new Florida law would keep the names secret for 90 days and longer if the winner wanted that.
Yeah.
She said a lottery winner should get at least 6 months of automatic privacy. 90 days is nothing. You see how quick time flies, said Moore, who has been in state prison for nearly 3,400 days.
Wow.
Representative Anthony Sabatini was the only lawmaker to vote against the new law. Sabatini said, "People want to know who won the lottery, a government-run, taxpayer-funded program." Now, panelists, are you with Representative Sabatini, or do you agree with your fellow author, the murderer?
Oh, what a way to put that choice.
Yeah.
I'm going with privacy.
That means you go with Didi.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Hey,
Well, yes, it's just, now imagine winning it. You feel so guilty. I mean, people are going to come up to you, people who know you, and it's like everybody will have a sob story, and then you'll, I know people whose lives are ruined because, you know, they win the lottery and their family abandons them because they're not sharing it, and they call them selfish, and everybody thinks they should have a cut, you know, that you have so much and you should share it. So I think it should be private. I think there are some people who actually sign, isn't it true, who collect, well, I guess you're not, but this is in order to avoid paying the tax. They'll pay somebody off to collect the ticket and pay the tax.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I've heard of that. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, why do escaped convicts make bad writers?
Okay.
Oh, is this a, I
Could
guess
you
this
fill
is,
in the segue on that?
now, which one in particular?
Oh, why do escaped convicts make poor writers?
Oh, there's just so many ways to go on that.
Well, they can't work on their drafts, you know, they've escaped.
They're escaping,
I mean,
they're
yeah,
running,
right.
they're running. They don't
Yeah.
want to use their real name, but that's not an
That's right.
impediment, obviously, because you can use a pseudonym. I don't know, because they're...
Because they don't finish their sentences.
Oh, that's another lousy pun.
Oh, man.
I told you
I should
he
just
would,
know. When
we
you've
should
got
know.
that look,
I know.
don't
I
go
know,
there.
I know.
Right. Let's go right into book covers.
Cool.
By the way,
right.
the book covers, the fascinating to me, Sharon, with her artistic eye, as well as Susie has an artistic eye too.
Yes,
Two artistic
Susie's a
eyes.
professional.
And this book that you have in front of you that I'd like you to show the camera, the
Oh,
people,
wrong turn?
is you contributed. It's an anthology.
Yes,
And you
yes.
contributed to it.
Yes, it's
And
about...
you just have, it's a fabulous
I love this
Don't move it
cover.
around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Keep it still, and people
I
can
like
see
this cover.
wrong turn.
And the theme is wrong turn. And
Nice.
something, I've read them all, and they're all about someone somehow taking a wrong turn. And as a result, some of them are thrillers, and they're not humorous. They're mysteries.
Yeah.
And mine is called The Love Nest. And
How can you take a wrong turn in a love nest?
No,
Oh, there's so many ways.
You speak from experience.
The love
Hey,
nest,
look at
that's
that.
right, that's right. The love nest is on an abandoned lake in the winter, and they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone takes a wrong turn and, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry,
The
Wayne.
reason I'm holding this is because I think that people who are familiar with art, as you both are, can tell us if that's a painting, a drawing, a combination, and all those nice things, gesso or chalk or what it's pastel. What is the behind this cover, do you think? Because I know you're guessing. It's not a certainty.
I don't
I mean,
know.
what is behind it in terms of the idea, or
No, in terms of materials, what it was.
it looks like pencil to me.
Yeah.
I thought,
Pencil and paint.
which to me just I felt so remarkable that somebody could do so much with pencil.
Definitely. Well, pencil is a very versatile medium, and I love this cover because it uses the title of the book, and it's just absolutely focused on what the title is. You are anticipating that there's going to be some wrong turn. I mean, that is one way to do a cover, is to pick that moment.
I will tell them that.
Tell you what, I think that cover you mentioned for the, what is it, Catch the Baby?
Yes.
That cover, I mean, you just credited it. I think it saved the life of the clown, did he? He was resurrected.
Oh yes. It afforded me the template to redo the clown that was lost in the McDonald's very sadly.
So
this one tells a story of it tells the story of Catch the Baby. The baby's running away, giggling and thinking this is a really fine idea. And there are other covers that are more mysterious, but this tells some of the story.
And it's action. It's all action. I like that.
Did you already know the title, Catch the Baby, when you? Yes.
Yes, because my mother was the one who named it, and it was actually the inspiration of Catch the Baby because Lydia was crawling out the door, and just an aside for an illustrator who's not an author illustrator generating the text themselves, you're always responding to what somebody else has done. They've done that first, and then unless you've got a true collaboration where you're going back and forth. But in all of the books I ever did, it was, here's the manuscript, now you respond to this.
Okay. Book covers. I should say something about book covers too. We're going to have, the screen is going to be able to light up with a picture of the book cover currently used for Ed and Joe,
Oh, great.
the novel.
I wish I'd brought it with me.
Well, don't worry, it'll be on. It'll be on the screen.
Good. They will see it. The viewers will see it.
It's digitalized, and we'll have it. And as I'm speaking, it'll be on the screen for people to look at. Yeah. And just for fun, people, I think, often because you go into a bookstore and you find a book and it has just one cover. In fact, 1,000 copies of the same cover. It looks like it was always there. It was always that was the cover. And it isn't true. Many times there's drafts and drafts, past versions of the same cover. And I'd like, now the screen will light up with this, you have to imagine, but we know that people will see this. Another picture, an earlier picture, a painting by Ed Hopper, where it's kind of famous because it was like the mansion that was used in one of these Hitchcock films. I think the hotel with the, which one was it? But the picture will
Not
be
the
on
Bates.
Yes, I think so.
No.
Anyway, that painting is famous, and it is also public domain, which means that if you wanted to use it in a book, or even a book cover, you could do so for nothing. And that struck me as a
Is that the billowing curtains one? The billowing curtains?
That's in Gloucester. As it happens, see, this building, this Victorian mansion, which is instantly recognizable to people who do anything with modern 20th century art, you'd say, oh, I remember that. That's the building It's either in Kansas or somewhere in the Midwest, next to a railroad track. And I toyed around with it in my own way on a computer to put it in a fog to make it more blue and green, which is like Gloucester blue and green and foggy, you know, and it looked, and it's Victorian mansion.
You mean, did you,
I was thinking of it as
Photoshop? Were you using like Photoshop or one of those programs?
Whatever the most minimal is that you get in a computer. So
Paint, that's what I have.
Paint or something.
It's for ages 3 to 6.
And yeah, that works for me. And I got this image that the people will see. And you could almost spell out Ed and Joe and love and art in Gloucester.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't Gloucester after all. As much as I wanted to move that mansion into it. So that picture, which you'll see, say, well, maybe it could have been used. But it was not used, in fact. And instead, a true artist friend, a graphic artist who does a lot with computers, put together I guess, montage, probably kind of a Photoshop thing, where Ed Hopper's more famous Nighthawks, you named it right, the Nighthawks, which has been parodied and used many times by many artists, made that. He relocated Nighthawks to have a glass window, and you'll see in the picture frame the twin lights. So he relocated it to, I don't know if it's Long Beach or Good Harbor Beach. It's over in that
This is where I grew up in Long Beach in the summer.
With
and
that,
there's the hotel there, and there's the twin lights. When I look at that, I say, that's the old Long Beach Hotel.
And he added a poster on the wall of the man at the wheel, which, oddly enough, in 1923 didn't quite exist. It was. I know when you go to the statue, it says 1623, 1923.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the statue was unveiled in 1924. So it really isn't quite. It's a little anachronistic.
I didn't realize that.
For Ed and Joe to be sitting in this diner, which doesn't exist in Good Harbor, next to a poster for a statue that didn't yet exist. But, you know, it's a novel.
And you took liberties.
And I took liberties for the sake of the cause here, Ed and Joe.
And I don't even think of those characters as being Ed and Joe, because they look sort of kind of shady, you know, the characters sitting there. They don't look, I didn't think of Ed and Joe.
You don't think of them as Romeo and Juliet in that way?
No, not at all.
No,
they look like they're up to no good.
Well, I don't know.
It's very evocative.
Right. Everybody has a different opinion.
You've got Sharon's got another cover to go into, because you mentioned you're doing your own. You make your own things here. Well,
here's a quickie. Now, I did this one. I'm VP of Friends of Beverly Animals, and I did this as a fundraiser for cat ladies and cat men. A lot of men are into cats now. It's a wonderful thing. And it's called 15 Reasons Why Men Are For Now, Cats Are Forever. And isn't it the truth? I mean, a man tries to impress you with his knowledge of wines. And I say, cats don't try. They are naturally impressive. They don't have to knock themselves out. Oh, and I like this one. A cat will bring you dinner unannounced. And I've had that happen so many times. We had a cat who was always doing that. So
this looks great. I've got to get this. Wow.
All right.
Yeah. Next time we get together, I'll bring you a copy.
Okay.
I have some at home.
Same question, Sharon. The title and the illustration, which came first?
Oh, gee. Well, I'll tell you something. There is a store that was carrying, I won't say which one it is, that was carrying my, books, local authors. Yeah. They stock with local authors. And they wouldn't, because of the bosom, bosoms, you see.
It was
They-
too racy. It was too
Well,
racy.
I couldn't believe it. And I offered to put tape over it, like, some colored tape or something, or paint over, just put a little lace or whatever. And they said, no. So they didn't carry this. So
Okay, you need to give her a high neck.
yeah, but really, it just surprised me with
funny.
what's on TV and on the internet. But
I-
but they're
I
they're
don't
kind
think
of
that-
traditionalists.
I don't think that bookstore is abreast of the times.
Yes, that's what I
Anyway.
thought. Will you tell them when you go
Were-
in there, Wayne?
were
Say
you-
you're not shopping there anymore until they stock this book.
Are they going to think I'm a shady character? What?
No, when they know how many the big bucks you drop wherever you
No,
go.
that's it, yeah.
He's no frugal Finn.
Jeez, I wish. Anyway, you have, Susie, you have some other covers that you
I
can
do.
show us. And
I actually
those
brought
are covers important?
Our cover's important.
Covers are important.
Oh.
And I've got actually a question for you, which you, if you don't have the answer, maybe we can research for another time. What is the purpose of dust jackets?
I was.
Okay.
I
starting
worked in a used bookstore.
Yes.
For George Gloss, who was the
Oh,
number
yeah.
one antiquarian bookseller of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And George with many years of experience. I said when we got some new old books, some used books that we recently purchased, I said, George, what do you want to do with the book, with the dust covers?
Right.
And he said, you keep them on the book. And I said, why? He says it's worth 20% more. And
Oh,
so I
wow.
guess the reason is
Wow.
there's dust cover is that there's 20% of more value when somebody feels they have a protection for the product
I
than,
guess.
Yeah.
than if they, per George Gloss. But anyway, what is your cover?
Well, I've got. I'm going to go with this one because when I knew we might be talking about covers, I was looking around for covers of books in my house that I really liked. This is not a book by me.
Yeah.
But I picked it up. It's a book called Appalachia: The Voices of Sleeping Birds, and it's a watercolor painting. And I found it so interesting. The painting itself is very evocative. I've got a lot of questions about it. I mean, why are the children walking away? But you can almost feel this summer's day, and you could feel sense the dust coming up. It made me curious about what was inside.
Why are the
it's
children
beautiful.
walking away? You can almost feel this
Is this
summer's
being
day.
shown?
Now, I said you're a children's book author because you speak in rhyme. Is it true? But anyway,
I don't mean to do that. Yes.
that reminds me of somebody like, what is the one who did Treasure Island?
Oh, Wyeth, N.C. Wyeth.
N.C. Wyeth.
Oh, I almost
And-
bought one of his books. Beautiful.
In terms of the palette, the
Right.
colors that he uses,
Yeah.
and the contrast.
He loved reds.
Yes.
And this is a lot lighter. This is a watercolor, and I think that he probably used watercolor or something like that, but very deep colors.
Yes.
And anyway, I love this
Besides,
cover because it captures something atmospheric. It's actually an illustration in the book as well.
Yeah.
And I think they picked it because it captured something about a time and place.
yes.
It's the ineffable thing about a cover.
Give us an idea. I guess you wouldn't know if it's in the library or not. You could recommend freely anyway. My rule is my rule.
Yeah.
For myself, would you recommend this book to people besides the cover and the illustration?
I love the illustrations in it. I mean, truth be told, I can't really remember the text. The text is very.
It's not like Dr. Seuss.
What age would that be, Susie? What do you?
this-
Look at
this-
isn't that wonderful? Look at that dog.
They're the illustrations. The guy who did this, Barry Moser, used photographs, and you can tell when somebody's made an illustration from a photograph. I don't mind them. I think they just are different looking, but there's things look different if you've done it from life or if you've done it from a photograph. But I love the illustrations in here. I would look at it just for the illustrations. You could read it aloud to a child. I'm not quite sure what age would want to read it.
Did you say
though.
middle? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe middle,
school?
fifth
Yeah.
grade, sixth grade, maybe.
Yeah.
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 Where's
I do love that.
there's another cover over there.
Oh, this! Oh my goodness. Okay, this is.
Oh, that's a classic.
This is.
That looks familiar.
It's this is a book called Dinosaurs and Beasts of Yore, It was an anthology of poems, and I was the illustrator.
Oh,
And
wow.
the wonderful thing about this cover is something that happened afterwards. Because one Christmas, my father loved to make goofy things, and he was a very creative guy. One of the gifts he made for me was carving all these little figures out of fire brick and painting them. So there's this little bunch of statues of these dinosaurs, which are one of my greatest treasures.
Now, what is fire brick? Can you?
Fire brick is a very porous brick that you can put in something like a kiln, which will not break down and keep things really, really hot for things that are getting cooked inside.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's a very lightweight brick.
And is it easy to carve?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
You wouldn't be able to carve a regular brick, but this
No,
is,
no.
you know, you just, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And if I may mention one more thing, you always get the chance in these books to sort of sneak in little autobiographical things.
Oh, I love those.
So I had a lot of fun with this one. I will digitize this. This was a portrait of my husband, who it doesn't look quite as svelte as he did then many years ago, but it's a poem called The Eohippus. The Eohippus is a horse so small he trip us.
Hey!
So I have this, my husband has just tripped on an Eohippus, and I got all these little jokes in. He's a scientist and an engineer. His tie has got all these little sigma signs on it, and he's holding a book called The Theory of Theory. And there's a briefcase that says BA for Big Al. So if you're the illustrator, you can sneak these things in. It's really fun. Yeah.
I'm glad.
That's
Glad to hear. The story behind the
That's
story.
terrific.
Thank you.
I love the black and white. You don't often see that
It's fun.
anymore. I like that.
We're able to imagine, and the audience are going to see on the screen, a couple of, a failure and then a success. A cover that didn't make it, that was designed and turned out not to be what the publisher wanted, and then the cover that did make it for a book on Abraham Lincoln, which recently came out. And the cover that didn't make it, I think now on the screen, if we're looking at it, people are going to see the cover that did not make it is called Bloodkin, and it has a picture developed or evolved from Photoshop maybe from the Mount Rushmore monument, where Abraham Lincoln's face is looking kind of directly at George Washington. So you have those two people looking at one, Abraham Lincoln looking at George Washington, and a kind of a misty or black, gray, foggy background. And then at the top of the cover over Bloodkin is Abraham Lincoln's most secret mystery, or something. Deepest, darkest secret, which is kind of a true reflection on what I wrote. The next book cover, which the people will see, and it is actually the real cover now, is retitled, called Abraham Lincoln, American Prince, Ancestry, Ambition, and the Anti-Slavery Cause. Now, that's pretty professional compared to the first, the second.
I know. And what is a bloodkin anyway? What
Bloodkin
a bloodkin? Someone you're related to?
Related
closely?
to by blood, not by marriage.
Okay.
We have a lot of people we're related to by marriage.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
In our
biological.
vein, but there are others who are biologically, directly blood
And
kin.
this is your book, Wayne, is it?
This is my book. My book.
I
It recently
didn't
came out.
realize
Yeah, no,
that.
just
You're talking about.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking. And you didn't. You don't have a copy with you now, but
No, I don't.
no.
But
Okay.
It'll be on the screen for you to
Our
see.
viewers.
Okay.
The-
Our viewers
Yeah.
will see it now.
And lastly is a book that may be out by the time this is broadcast. Is called It Happened in Boston. That cover, you'll see similarly went through an evolution. And one of the screens will show a circus poster from probably 150 years ago. The circus poster began the thought of my friend, the graphic designer.
Yeah.
He thinks my book, which is a baseball book from the 1870s, is sort of light and funny and amusing and happy depiction of baseball in its early days.
So it's not the Red Sox.
No, the Boston team at that time, the
Oh, yeah,
professional
that's
Boston
right.
team at that time was called the Red Stockings.
Red Stockings? I didn't know that.
Well, who did?
Yeah.
But they did. The ones in 1870. Now
Wow.
it happened in Boston.
Mhm.
The cover that really is used now, you can see, depicts the two brothers, Harry and George Wright, the original Wright brothers,
Oh, yes, yes.
who developed professional baseball in 1872
They did that
in
too?
Boston. In Boston.
They did that too, as well as
No, the original Wright brothers, the ones before Orville and
the original. Oh, okay. So they weren't,
I didn't know
Yeah.
any of
They
them,
weren't
but
the well-known.
we did have a
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
getting the cover.
Another
right.
Wright brothers. Oh, okay.
Wright
Another
brothers.
pair.
And I should say, because there will be a screen on this, the way that the lettering went, because there's a title and a subtitle, and I wanted people to know it's a novel, not nonfiction.
Oh, yes, yes.
Is all, and I want to put my name on it. So we have the thing that my friend worked with, and you'll see. Here's my first suggestion. Here's my second suggestion, and then you compare the text to the cover. You see what he did, which was a totally third thing. It didn't go back, but it works much better than anything I had in my head.
That's what you hope for.
Right? They're
That's right.
two good eyes for that.
And a sense of design. That's what
Right.
I'm lacking, and not everyone has that sense of balance and whatever.
When you either of you work on a cover, this is a question out of the air, so you have no preparation for this. You have
Susie's
to
the one who.
thought.
Yeah.
When you're being creative with your artistic materials and some kind of surface you're working with, and you know you're making a book cover, are you at all thinking about an audience, or are you just there? It's you versus the paper.
No, I am not. I mean, I in a way, I'm working for an audience of one, which is the art director and the editor, because they need to approve it.
You think of them sometimes.
I do think of them, but once I let the marketing people and them worry about the audience. I just want to do something that's true to the book. I figure if I'm working that, then I'm doing my job. And when I do my illustrations, I'm not thinking about who's going to see it. I am
Pleasing yourself.
Yeah, I'm pleasing myself. I'm feeling it through me onto the page.
Yeah.
Same question.
Because there's
Sharon.
nothing in it. You have to like it. You have to like it yourself, because otherwise it's just
dead.
Dead. That's right. It's just dead. You have to put a little something into it, if you're humor or whatever.
Can you force? I'm a writer. I'm a hack, so I can force myself to write. Can you force yourself to do a cover? Just you don't feel like it. You
have to. You have to. I mean, if it's your job, you just do
if
it.
it's your job, I know she can't very well say. And as I say, she's a professional cover, like illustrator and designer too, aren't you? You do
not so much of a designer. I don't have that skill, but But I mean,
designing is tough.
It is a whole nother thing.
They have to know where to place everything.
The proportions and the fonts and all that kind of stuff. I'm
yeah.
very happy to have someone else do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You remind me. This Lincoln book I sent off to the publisher. They said, you've got about 20 illustrations. Almost all of them were photographs. I think one was a map, and I had to send in what page I thought where would they best be placed.
Yeah.
And this is a design issue, right? So I sent them in. When the book came out, I looked through. Not once did I guess right. The page.
Well, that's an interesting thing too, because when I would be laying out books, I would lay out the text and the illustrations. There's a whole rhythm to things. I mean, you really want to have the illustration hit at the right moment in the text, And sometimes it doesn't work out because, as you know, there's a certain number of pages in a book, especially for a kid's book. It's 32 pages for a picture book, 48 pages for an easy reader book. So that is the number you have to work with.
If I understand those numbers, for instance, 48, there's no such thing as a 47 or 49. It's got to be 48.
I mean, you can have some blank end papers, but the reason for that is that the way things are printed. You have these sheets of paper, you have 4 sheets of paper, which is folded and stitched, and that gives you 16 pages.
Okay.
That's why you get these multiples of 16, and that's what gets stitched into the binding.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you could have a few extra, say, end papers if they want to do something fancy. But I mean, if you're a lowly peon like me, it's like, okay, you got a 32-page book. That's what you're doing.
All right. So it's like the nightly news. You've got to fill it all,
Right.
and not less and not more.
Right. I mean, you can do less and just have a couple blank pages, but
Okay.
you can't do more.
Can't do more.
That is not going to work.
Yeah, unless you have 16 more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Really? Extra.
Yeah, there would be times when I'd be so frustrated because I would have a really good idea for an illustration in my head, but the page count wouldn't work.
Seriously.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never imagined that to be
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a puzzle,
Well-
and I love puzzles.
Yeah.
I just probably
it's
killed my mic here, but if somebody just got their ears hurt, I apologize. Yeah, so it's a puzzle working that out.
All right.
Yeah.
I think, excuse me, Wayne, I was
Please.
just going to say, you were asking, do you put yourself into it? You asked, could she draw something if she had to? And she
Oh,
said,
yeah.
well, yes, if she
Yeah.
getting paid for this is her job, her responsibility. But it's funny, the French have a saying for this. I was thinking of it once when I made soup. When I make soup, like if I make soup, I have to pay attention to the ingredients. I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. And I find if I just do it by rote, if I find myself just automatically doing this and I don't put myself into it, the soup doesn't come out good.
Right.
So you know how they'll say a little bit of love made with a little bit of love. You have to like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you're aware and if you're alert, and you're involved in it, then that soup's going to be good.
That's
because
right.
you're there every step of the way. But if you're just, stirring and reading the ingredients, just throwing it in, it doesn't come out.
have
Made
to-
with a little
yeah.
bit of love. Who said that?
I don't know,
There's
but I've
some
got.
It
ad.
sounds like an advertisement.
It is an ad.
Yes.
We've just got 1 minute, and I don't know
All
if you had this experience. A friend of mine, a woman who had both her mother was still living, her grandmother. They were working in the grandmother's kitchen making soup. And she said, Wayne, you would never know tension until you have tried to be 3 women cooking the soup in the same kitchen. 3 generations of the same.
Yes, yes,
Do you have
yes.
experience with that was tense between yourselves and
Well,
your mothers?
what do they
or
say?
no?
Too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
Well, of course that's true. And each woman knows the best way, knows the right way. And, her generation, and she's not going to listen to the other generation. And everybody knows the right way. And the current generation knows the most efficient way. And they're not going to put up, she's not going to put up with the old ladies' ideas.
That'll be the last word. Thank you, ladies. And once again, another adventure, and we'll see you next time on Gloucester
Yes.
Bookies.
And we've got some exciting ideas planned, don't we? Can you give them a little preview of what's to come?
No.
Oh. They'll have to tune in.
Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Alo ho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Alo ho. Suukon kirsikka silmät niin mustat kuin yö. Ja ne loisti kuin tuikkiva tähtien työ. Veo ve, veo ve, veo ve, veo ve, rolling go, rolling go. Veo ve, veo ve, veo ve, veo ve, rolling go. Kun Jenni silmiään vilkutti meihin näin. Alve, kaikki miehet on lennestä hourupäin. Alve,